Hey guys, Anthony here with Austin Struggle Weapons Guild again, our new home of Valenti in Austin. Today, it's probably gonna be the last Longsword concept video we're gonna be going over, unless someone comes up with some extra stuff to talk about and play with it from there. Tonight, we're gonna kind of tie everything together, give some tips for working on drills, other solo work you can do, kind of tying all the concepts from before together a little bit more, and kind of see where things end up. So one of the last things that I don't think we talked about as much as I would have liked is the idea of the abzug over the withdraw. So this is something we see a lot of in Meyer's work, and it's really about once we're in this bind, once we're close, we've thrown probably a couple cuts, moved around a little bit. Generally speaking, if you haven't made contact after your second or third cut, you should really be looking at getting back out. In the thick of things in the bind here, unless you're significantly more skilled than the person you're fighting against, a lot of things can really start to happen very quickly. This is where things are dangerous, and especially if you're throwing multiple cuts and leaving the bind, getting out is really something you need to work on. Either if you've made a successful hit and want to back away, or you've thrown 2 or 3 strikes, have gotten nowhere, getting out successfully to throw another engagement is the thing you should be teaching yourself to be doing. So kind of starting loose, starting easy with this idea, right? So we'll throw 2 cuts to the Pell and then work on getting out. For right now, I'll keep it simple, doing right and left overhouse and working around corners from there and then working to get out. So again, starting that distance away where I'm going to be striking just to a few inches in front of my target's face. So they're back there. So if I throw my first cut here, I'll throw my second cut, I'll move with it. So from here, I really want to work on my abzug, my retreat. So I should always be keeping in mind, I need to control their weapon. I don't want to just kind of drop and walk and turn away. I need to control and keep working. So we're going to retreat with another cut, with another step. Again, keeping the ideas we've talked about before. I should always be cutting towards the opponent, closing off their line of attack, and trying to control what they're doing with my body, with my sword, my motion. So again, real simple. I cut in, I cut around. If this doesn't work, I can very easily throw this rising cut, controlling, backing away, moving out. So create another quick example. So same thing, 1, 2, back out, to come to abzug to retreat. So obviously you do this lots of different ways, and there's a whole bunch of options based on where their sword is, how things are set up. And really this changes a lot if I just even, it's not gonna let me rotate easily, but if I just rotate how the sword is sitting in it, instead of sitting like it's a right side cut, if it's a left side cut, it's gonna be a vastly different bind, vastly different feeling, right? So this first cut's gonna feel kind of weird. The second has to be much more solid, much more resistance. And this rising cut isn't going to be quite as effective because that's going to push them clear to free up another attack. I'm not really closing that line because I'm feeding them off. So instead, I might do something, well, cut here, cut through, and I might throw some sort of shield-like motion where I'm coming down, locking that sword out, lining up an attack if I want it to press back through, but otherwise just being able to pull away and keep my pressing, keep my attacking on. So that's a super simplified version of the abzug, how that applies, how that works. And I'm going to kind of go into now of making drills, making combos, making routines. So you often get told a lot, one way to get good, get better at fencing, even if you don't have anyone to work with like we are right now, is just do some sort of shadow boxing, right? Even if I don't have a Pell, I can sit here, practice my combinations, whatever I want to do. And the question is, how do you, first is depending on what level you are, what do you even do, right? How do you make this a thing? And I can say, okay, maybe I want to do that. Maybe this happens, and this, right? And all of a sudden I find myself following the same patterns every time. So a really easy way that I tell people I recommend is grabbing a deck of cards and flip over 3 cards, 4 cards, and see what they are. So the first step of this is assigning each suit a different quadrant. Most people, I like to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, where 1's the right side, 2 is the left, 3 is lower right, 4 is there, and just assign each suit a number. However you want to do it, doesn't really matter. But say, club, diamond, heart, spades is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I flip over 4 cards. I have a spade, a diamond, and a diamond. Remember what I just said. So 4, 3, 3 would be my cut. So I'd sit there. I would throw my 3 cuts until I got somewhat comfortable with those motions. So it'd be super awkward, which always makes this exciting. So I'd go 4, 3, 3. Just getting to the point where, how do I throw that? And you can throw it from different guards. So maybe I don't want to throw this cut from Von Tog, because it's really awkward to throw from Von Tog to start. So maybe you want to start in Albert. And all of a sudden, this feels great. And then the 3 and 3, and just finding ways to loop those, chain those together. If you want to be more complicated with things, you can start assigning different master strikes to different face values. You can do odds and evens being true edge and false edge. There's lots of iterations, combinations to do that. But really the trick here is, again, pick out another 3 cards. So I have club, diamond, spade. So much easier. We had a 1, a 2, and a 4. And how can I tie those cuts together? How can I start making that feel more natural to me? Because, so this is an easy one. 1, 2, 4, things like that. You can also start doing these with a pre-described opening. Say I want to practice my Zwerkow. I'm going to do my Zwerkow against someone who's cut in from the right side. So I come with my Zwerkow. So here, I do that same combination we just talked about, right? It was 1, 2, 4. And you can start working in your Abzug off of that. So come in, strike, then I throw a 1, a 2, and a 4. And now I'm retreating, now I'm closing lines off. And now I'm starting to build up habits based on concepts we want to work on and teach ourselves, as well as a little bit of randomness from the cards, and just something to really help you build up your training, build up things you want to do. If you do have a Pel like this, or something that can hold a sword, it can be, you can make a monster like I've got. I've seen people grab bike stands, things like that, anything to hold a sword for you. You can start playing with other bind work, right? I know I talked about this, talking about Mutia and Duplieren, but getting to feel where this bind is and options from here. And you can do the same combinations from here, right? So last one was what? 1, 2, 4. So I'm here, I can throw a cut to this side, and then coming underneath it and working those positions. You can come around it, right? Really thinking about, now I've got a Pel, now I've got something to work against. How can I apply this? What was shadow boxing, where it's this to this to this. How can I start using that from the bind, where I cut in to there? And maybe that 2, instead of being cutting around, maybe this is that Duplieren. We were pushing aside, snapping into this, that 4. We've really got to work to come underneath, and then I cut from below like that. So that's, again, another really simple, easy way to start building up your vocabulary of how you move, how you fence, how you do things. So a little bit short tonight, so not a whole lot of new things to cover, really focusing on that Abzug of how do I move away, how do I engage something, getting yourself to retreat when you need to, when you want to. If you're fortunate to have a partner, you can have them call out retreat or Abzug or whatever other command word you want to build into your training. But getting used to that, like now you're reacting to a command, to a signal, where it's just, you throw 2, 3, 4 cuts, and all of a sudden someone calls retreat. You throw a passing cut, getting away, going out to long point. One additional point with the Abzug, one of my favorite and most useful ways I get out of a fight is I don't just throw that last cut. It's always stopping in long point, fighting for that center position, but we are much farther away, right? Maybe you can hit with a step, with a lunging step, but you've got center control. You don't need to back out to here, right? I want to stay just enough in range so if they do something dumb, if they start to turn away, if they drop their sword for a little bit because they think the fight's over, the exchange is over, and they'll come back later, then you can easily chase in, pressing through. So really, while you're practicing, while you're training this, if you are pulling back, make sure it's not pull back and I'm done. Always pull back under guard, under threatening position. Make sure your point is, online is ideal, close to online, covering your line, covering your center is the minimum. So again, I think that's going to wrap up the longsword for the moment. I know plans in the future. I got the new Judlu book from Purple Heart Armory. So we'll be getting one of those. We start going through that, kind of a live study group, study session kind of thing, just kind of reading through it together, working through it together. I'll have Joshua back doing that. If other things people want to see, again, shout out, let me know. I know someone's asked for some cloak work, so I'll be picking that up. I'm skipping next week's the week after. So definitely check back for that. And otherwise, hope everyone has a great weekend. And we're back Monday for the last of the Lakers plays. Thank you.